All right. Welcome to the Primal Experience podcast. On today's episode, we have Raf here joining us. She is an individual who I've been inspired through the X or Twitter platform. We came in connection through there, and I just found a lot of your content really empowering, really inspiring. And I just felt this simpatico vibe that what you're sharing is a lot of what I believe and what I share, and just decided to reach out. I was like, you know what, let's have a conversation. Let's just see where this takes you. I There's so much that I would love to hear about you and your story, uh and why and how you got onto this health journey, and the really like the primal experience of life, especially because of your age. And of course, age is just a number, but anytime that I've had multiple businesses and I've worked with people who are 17, 18, 19, and they're very few and far between. But like when there's an individual who's still in their teens and they are sharing this wisdom, this esoteric knowledge, there's just something I'm like, hey, how did you get into this? Where did this come from? Of course, we have so much access to information nowadays, but I want to share the perspectives and how this stuff isn't just like something you have to go deep into, the books. It's something that's more innate. And I feel like that has become, it's innate for you. And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm sure your story will lend a perspective for others. So I always like to share the the reason that this is called the Primal Experience podcast. And it's really to return to the root of who we are. For the etymology of primal is prime, which means first and utmost importance. And so yeah, we're getting back to the root of who we are and returning to what is truly most important as human beings. And so, Raf, what is the first utmost importance, key factors, or just what's present for you when it comes to you living your truest human experience?
I think it's super important to be authentic, always being yourself. I think we obviously, as humans, have to go through different experiences in life to genuinely be able to find ourselves. A lot of people take a little longer, and some people just, they like me, you kind of like know who you are, you know what you want, you know what I mean? So being authentic, I've always liked to be myself in front of everyone. I make jokes. Like I don't like to put kind of like a font in front of me and lie to people. I like to just keep it as authentic as I can, especially when talking to people. You know what I mean? Because I also love connecting with people, with everyone. And I think, being able to be authentic towards every single person that you come across and every single person that you meet, I think that's one of the most fundamental things that you can have as a person in general. Like, that's like my top, like, okay, like always be authentic, always keep it authentic. Everything you talk about, like your personality, everything. So, yeah, authenticity for me is literally like my prime.
Amen to that. And thank you for bringing your authenticity to the show, and welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to, start flowing into this conversation and see what we talk about.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Same. And I just want to piggyback and riff off of what you're talking about with authenticity a little bit, because I can relate. I spent 25 years of my life not really living fully authentic to who I was very people pleasing. In high school, there was parts of me that were very authentic, but I just wanted to like fit in. I had
Yeah.
insecurities around that, around like not being cool enough, or not being a part of the crowd, even though I could literally like meld and gel with anybody, and I still can. And I think a lot of that comes from the deep authenticity that we have. But the more that I like started anchoring into my authenticity through the means of being healthy and like clearing out my body, detoxifying and wearing more natural fibers and like really just like getting more and more seeped into nature, the authenticity just began to exude within myself and without. And yeah, I couldn't agree more with how important authenticity is. And it requires a practice. It
Yeah,
requires,
for sure.
health. It requires these disciplines. But I love what uh, Rick Rubin has to share about like authenticity and being a
Yep.
creator. It's like, don't create for other people, create for yourself, and the
Mhm.
spirit will just come through.
Mhm. Yeah, I think one of the biggest like problems now, especially like in today's society, um, a lot of people care about outside sources and they focus on, like you said before, fitting in, whatever, like a group of friends, and like especially when you're going to school and all of those things. Obviously, when I was in high school too, like I felt the need to fit in. But I remember my last year of school, I was like, you know what? No offense, but I genuinely hate everyone. I was like, I can't keep like lying to myself and forcing myself to be friends with people that genuinely, at the end of the day, they don't share the same values as I do, you
Hmm.
know? They don't have the same mindset as I do. And I think that's super important, when it comes to authenticity and finding yourself. I think you like, this is like the one thing I try to remind myself every single day. You need connections. You need like-minded connections, because without those people that have, very fundamental values just like you have them, and like they think similar ways as you do, without them you can't really grow as a person. If you're still with people that care about society, care about like what other people say, you know what I mean, insecure people. And I mean, insecurities are normal, but when you're kind of putting those insecurities onto others, that's when it
Hmm.
becomes a problem, you know what I mean.
Hmm.
um so yeah, I mean, it's huge, just finding the right people and connecting with everyone. That's why, like, being authentic for me, it's like super important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, again, couldn't agree more. It wasn't until I was like 27 where I started to just put myself out there. I started like sharing myself authentically through Instagram, through YouTube. And that was hard. That was hard to just
Mm-hmm.
do by myself. But then like this spark came and I was able to connect with similar like-hearted people,
Right, right.
and then I got into business with people who could see the same values of me. And then it was just like, it was like this exponential growth where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm making waves. I'm catching some
Mm-hmm.
momentum, but then boom, it was just like I shot up um into my own truth. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like we need community, we need tribe that support us, because if we don't, and we don't have that person who's like cheering you on, like, yes, chase your dreams, go for it. It can be really challenging to hear just like the negativity
Yeah,
or yeah.
for
So,
sure. I think I've honestly have always been someone very outgoing. I've always loved meeting new people ever since I was little. Like, I was genuinely like probably like 5 years old and I was talking to old people. Like, I loved it so much. That's why the story behind like my childhood and how I grew up is so meaningful to me,
hmm.
because I didn't grow up in America, in the United States.
Where did you grow up?
I i was born in Peru,
Mm,
and I lived in a small town in front of the beach. So everything was local, and like I was always near the ocean, and I was
yes.
always grounding.
Yeah.
um and as a kid, I think it's super important to kind of have a fun childhood and not be kind of like, because parents nowadays, you go to a restaurant and you see kids on their phones,
Yeah.
like like probably like 7-year-olds, 9-year-olds on their phones, just like stuck to the phones or
Yeah.
iPads. It's a big thing.
Right.
And I look at them and I'm like, wow, that's really not how I grew up. Like I grew up in front of the beach, with like my friends.
Hmm.
Every summer I would go out of town to a different beach and
Hmm.
stay there. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how like my values were made.
Yeah.
Also because of my parents. I mean, I'm super grateful for my parents because they made me who I am today. And
Hmm.
also like seeing my mother, as an example growing up and how strong she has been after going through so much, kind of has taught me like how to be my own person and
Hmm.
always like, listen to myself no matter what. Um so yeah, I mean my childhood was awesome. And I think that's like one of
Yeah.
the biggest things that kind of uh taught me how to be authentic in a
Mm.
way because I don't know if you've ever heard anyone say this about like Peruvian people, but we're just naturally very outgoing. I cannot tell you why, but we just simply are.
Mhm.
I remember when I was a kid, I would get invited to my mom's friends' houses just to hang out with them. Like literally, even my grandma's friends too. Like they would say, like, "Oh, like please, like bring Raf to the house. Like I just want to talk to her," and I would just have like random conversations with them.
Yeah.
So growing up, I've always been super outgoing. I've loved connecting with like anyone and everyone.
Mhm.
Um, but the moment where I kind of lost myself in a way,
Mhm.
um, was when I came here.
Mhm.
So I spent the most fundamental years of my childhood over there, right?
And
In Peru.
what years were those?
So I was born there and then I came here when I was 9.
9. Okay.
So 9 years.
Yeah.
And I came here and I finished, elementary school, like the last year of elementary school. I came here when fifth grade, like it was about to end.
Mhm.
So I just like finished it here. And I remember going to middle school and I was having such a hard time making friends. And I remember crying to my mom and saying, like, I don't understand. Like, I don't think I fit in. Like, like I'm just not from here. Like, I don't
Right.
have, like the same things that these people have. Like, I can't really like communicate with them. Also because I didn't know English.
I was wondering, yeah, were you able to speak
Yeah.
English?
No. So the school that I went to in Peru, they did teach me English, but I never really like soaked it in.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like I knew a few things, a few words, but I just couldn't like fully speak it or fully understand it.
Yeah.
So I was just frustrated.
Yeah,
Like
I'd
I was so
imagine.
frustrated. Yeah, I was so frustrated. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. I remember my mom just sitting me down and she was like, I didn't bring you here for you to give up so
Mhm.
easily over something so small.
Mhm.
Like, you keep being yourself, you know, keep like being outgoing, talk to whoever you want.
Mhm.
Don't ever feel like insecure at the fact that you don't know the same language as these people do. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I was like, okay, like I'll suck it up, whatever. And then middle school was rough. Um, I was never really that good in school in general, too, with classes. I was horrible because I was just a kid with a lot of energy. So
Yeah,
it
to the
was,
standards of our
yeah,
traditional educational system.
yeah. So I wasn't really like I couldn't focus because I just wasn't interested. I was always a kid that liked creativity.
Mm.
I loved doing my own things, spending my own time doing my own thing, creating things. So school for me was always kind of like a cage for my
Mhm.
brain, you know?
Mhm.
So obviously on top of the fact that, I couldn't make friends and I couldn't be myself in front of everyone, I also had like that problem on top of that. You know what I mean? After that I went to high school and that's when I kind of started to like let loose a little and I was friends with everyone. Like, I
Mhm.
can't even tell you. I was
Mhm.
friends with everyone in high school. But it got to a point, uh, I think it was junior year, when COVID hit. I was like, I was spending so much time alone, and I was like, I don't connect with these people, you
Man,
know?
that is crazy for me to think about. So I just want to take a step back. Like your junior years when like COVID hit.
Yeah, I know.
And so
Yeah.
like you're socializing like the years where you're most social for, I
Yeah.
mean, in general, like I was super social in high school. Like you're just always
Mhm.
around people.
Mhm.
Like that came to an immediate halt to
Mhm.
really come back within like who is Raph?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So that was kind of the point. I was like, okay, like I don't connect with anyone. I can't connect
Mm,
with anyone. Like I love these people to simply just go party with. Because that's what high
yeah,
school is all about, like
totally.
partying and like drinking. You're just getting like into it and all of those things. Um, so I kind of started working on myself, but at the time I was in a relationship,
Hmm.
long-term relationship.
How long was this
Um,
relationship?
it was 4 years long.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the relationship was a huge thing at that moment, because when you're a teenager, I think those years, in my opinion, are the most important years for you to be alone. And obviously I don't regret it at all. I don't regret anything. I appreciate every single experience that I've gone through, but it did affect me a lot senior year. The relationship ended.
Why do you, I'm just curious, why do you think that those are the most important years to be single? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Because, yeah, because I feel like when you are in a relationship with someone, right?
Yeah.
And this is just from like personal experience, you lose
Yeah.
yourself.
Mm.
I lost myself
If you don't know
completely
yourself.
if you don't know yourself. Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially like at that, age, like 16, 17. It's like, okay, like I'm still learning about myself. I'm still learning about like the things I want for my future and like who I am as a person. So I completely lost myself because my focus, I think naturally as girls and as women, we focus a lot on nurturing our significant others.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
the sometimes when you're young, you can kind of confuse that and you put all of your focus on that person.
Yeah.
And
Without
you
nurturing yourself.
Yeah, yeah, without, like focusing on yourself as well, making
Yeah.
yourself the priority as well. Um, so, the relationship ended senior year, came back to school in person. Horrible. I was depressed.
Mm.
It was horrible. I didn't know who Raf was.
Hmm.
I remember my friends had no clue, like the way I would act towards people, it was completely different. Like my friends literally, it was like a point in my life where my friends were genuinely worried, and they would ask everyone like, okay, like what's wrong with Raf? Like
Hmm.
she's not like herself at all. Like she's acting like someone else. And
Because who they knew you were had changed.
yeah,
And
exactly.
and the version that they knew you as was almost, it sounds like I mean, yeah, keep going. Yeah, keep going.
I know where you're getting at. But yeah, I mean, I had no clue who I was. And that's
Yeah.
when it genuinely hit me. And I was like, okay, who am I? Like,
Mm.
who is Raf?
The
Like,
existential question
yeah,
that
no, I was going through a crisis.
it's deep. That question alone is like, if you want to
Yes.
like go through a rabbit hole, ask yourself, who am I?
No, seriously. That question will genuinely make you like question your entire life
Yeah.
about who you actually are. So I remember just asking myself, like, who am I? Who is Raf? What happened? And I remember I started to journal.
Were you much of a
And
journaler?
No, not really.
Mhm.
Not really. I always kind of expressed my feelings or whatever I felt in general, like emotions, etc., through art. I loved painting.
Mm.
And I still do. I love
Mhm.
it. But journaling was never like a hobby per se
Yeah.
for me until that point.
Mhm.
I was like, let's journal, let's start journaling and kind of figuring out what's going on with like my brain right
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
Uh it got to a point where I had to go to therapy.
Mm.
That's how bad it was. And I know a lot of people don't agree with therapy, and I think it depends
Mhm.
on the person that you get, you know?
Yeah.
Uh luckily I got the most amazing human being. Literally the first time I signed up for a therapist, I got the most awesome human.
Mm.
Like she helped me so much. And she would ask me all these questions about my past. And it would make me realize little by little, like, oh, like, I used to love doing this. I
Mm.
used to kind of like be like this. And I felt good being like this. So why, like what's going on? So I was questioning everything. And it wasn't until I would say a year ago, to be completely honest with you.
Mhm.
Um, I went to college and I wasn't doing good at all. Like at all. Um, I was failing some classes because I just simply just wasn't interested in anything. Like
Yeah.
I had an idea of what I wanted to do. I knew
Were you
how
just doing your
much
generals, like your general
uh
studies, or was there?
no, I was studying for business
Okay.
because I always had the idea that I loved business in general and I wanted to kind of be my own boss at some point, but
Yeah.
I just didn't know how.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I had like little thoughts coming up and whatever. College, horrible. My first year and a half, couldn't focus, was failing, just completely horrible. And also the problem on top of that was the fact that I just couldn't focus because I had way too much energy. And a lot of people say like, oh, ADHD, but I don't like saying that I've had ADHD or that I have ADHD because I never went to the doctor and they never
Yeah.
told me I had it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Although I had like all the symptoms and everything. Um and I was like, okay, let's try to figure out how to fix this because I can't fail school. I can't let my parents put so much money down for me
Mm.
to just fail everything and say, like, I don't give a fuck about this. Like, I don't know what to do with my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
That's a wise decision.
yeah. So then I kind of just took my time and every day I would write down ideas of the things that I love the most and the things that I was interested on.
Mhm.
And like throughout time I've always been obsessed with trying to kind of make a change
Mm.
in the world,
Mhm.
not just with people but also our planet because of
Mm.
so many things going on with it, like
Yeah.
climate change, pollution, all of these things, and also people with their health and people not knowing the truth about like big pharma, big food, etc.
Yeah.
um but the first thing was like, okay, like how can I make a change to the planet? So that's when I
Mm.
figured out, when I joined on Twitter, that's when everyone was talking about fabrics. And I've
Mm.
always been obsessed with clothes.
Mhm.
So I was like, fabrics, interesting. Like I didn't really know that there was a huge problem with polyester and all of these synthetic fabrics. And I found out like not only do they cause you health issues, but they also pollute the air that you're breathing. And I had no clue. So I was like, okay, this is a great idea, which I can't share
So
that much
so
about.
yeah, we don't want to give away all of the ideas.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so are you saying like when I'm wearing a shirt, if I'm wearing a polyester shirt, that
Hmm.
is polluting the air, or the way that they make the polyester?
The way that they make it,
Yeah,
100%, but also just simply wearing it too, because it does have chemicals.
yeah.
Also, exactly the way that the same chemicals affect your skin, and that's why it gives a lot of people, like, like allergic reactions, and their skin is like super sensitive. It can cause acne too, even cancer. It's doing the same thing with the air around you, which I had no clue about.
Which, yeah, that's not something that I've been consciously aware of per
Yeah.
se for me, but like knowing like, yeah, if I were to wear like, when I was in high school, I played football and I'd wear these like Under Armour like
Yeah,
tight
yeah, yeah.
shirts, sweat wicking. And
Yeah.
they would just get so stinky, like so fast. And they would heat up and like, yeah, all of that sweat, all that body heat is it's going out of the body, but
Yeah.
then it's heating up the clothes to like leach back into the body.
Mhm.
And all of those polyesters, those plastics, those endocrine disrupting materials are affecting our hormones. But yeah, I mean that makes sense. Like if we're sweating, or even just like our body heat, which
Yeah.
is at like 98.5 degrees,
Mhm.
which is pretty warm, that mixes with a plastic piece of clothing on your body. Yeah, that's going to heat it up and it's going to emanate more of that. I made a Twitter post today. I was like, I was at REI and looking for a new pair of pants that was gifted to me. Like it was like this Vuori brand it's like all recycled plastic. I'm like, Jesus, like
No.
thank you for the gift. I'm gonna return it
Thank you.
and find something else. But I'm like in REI and everything is plastic. Like there
Yeah.
is nothing is 100% cotton. I ended up getting a nice pair of like canvas pants from North Face that's 98% cotton and 2% spandex. I was like, this is good.
Mhm.
I can work with this, but like it's just everywhere. It's pervading our society.
Yeah. No, it really is, and no one is aware of it. I mean,
Very
even with
few
the
people.
whole yeah, even with the whole, if you bring up the frequency conversation and the whole topic about it to people,
Yeah.
they will literally think you're absolutely fucking insane.
Well, let's talk about that. I think I love this conversation. I love talking about, yeah, the frequency of clothing. Um, and I know that you are pretty well versed on that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, give us a rundown of like what's the frequency of different materials.
So obviously our human body, the frequency is around, I think, 110 or 100 megahertz. And then cotton, organic cotton, not
Hmm.
just regular cotton, because sometimes just regular plain cotton can also be made with synthetic materials,
And
which is kind
grown
of,
in with pesticides.
yeah, it's a little bit controversial, I'm not gonna lie. But organic cotton is 110 megahertz. So it's like one of the best type of fabrics that you can use because it's super close to the frequency of your body.
Right.
So obviously, I think the first thing that everyone needs to understand is we're like we're human beings, but
Mm-hmm.
we're basically like energy balls. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like we have energy, you know?
Hmm.
Everything has energy. Like, when something is static and you touch someone and like
Yeah.
you kind of get like that static feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Shock.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So it,
Our
it
nervous system
literally,
is electricity. It's like operating on electrical wires. Our heart is
yeah.
operating on electrical frequencies. So
It's the
yeah.
same thing with like our brain. Our brain needs electricity for,
Hmm.
like cognitive function, mitochondrial health, and everything. So it's the same exact thing with clothing.
Hmm.
Like wool has 5,000 megahertz. So that's like the frequency. Um, Linen also has 5,000, I'm pretty sure.
Hmm.
And then someone was asking me about oh my god, what's that fabric? Hemp, I
Mm.
think.
Yep.
I couldn't find the frequency of that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen what that
It's
emanates
it's
at.
called yeah, it's calculated in a different way. I'm not too sure. So I don't know how to like convert that into like megahertz and all of that.
But it is a
But
very natural fiber.
it is. So, like all of those are really good for you. So anything that's higher than your own frequency is super good for you because
Yeah,
it's just like adding, it's basically imagine grounding, like the benefits of grounding, right?
right.
It's the same thing with clothing.
Yeah,
It's natural, it doesn't have any chemicals, it doesn't have any like it didn't go through like a petroleum process like
right.
polyester. So it's
It's
literally
life
the same.
affirming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing as you standing outside and like barefoot on grass.
Mm,
So it's super interesting. A lot of people don't really agree with it, although there is literal science behind it,
yeah.
and research and studies.
Yeah.
So I don't know. A lot
Now
of
what
people are
about,
just very close minded.
yeah, we just I don't know what it is about us. I think we're just very skeptical in general
Yeah.
as humans, and then yeah, we need like my theory is that we're
Hmm.
so skeptical because we've been programmed through media and
Yeah.
television, and it just like gets embedded deeper and deeper into our body because we are eating unhealthy, and
Yeah.
it's just like the frequency of our body starts to lower, suppress. And so what we're when we're taking in this suppressing material, it just like validates these things. We're like, yeah, that's what we are. But then
Hmm.
in my experience and the experience of many people that I work with, my clients, once we start to detoxify our body, our system, and we start to nourish with this life affirming energy, we're hanging around life affirming people. We're living on purpose. We are focused. It's like we become more open to these ideas like, oh, actually, I've always known that. I've always known that deodorant wasn't good for me. I've always
Horrible.
known I've always known that like it feels better to just wear natural fibers. Oh, it sounds way better to listen to classical music than gangster rap.
Gangster
Whatever
rap.
whatever it may be.
That is such
Um,
a funny name. Oh god. But yeah, no, yeah, that's why getting into the human basics topic, that's why that's so important. And a
so
lot
but
of people keep
go
going.
back to you talked about like the frequency of cotton
Hmm.
and linen and wool. What about polyester?
Polyester, I didn't I think polyester has a every fabric has a frequency.
Yeah,
And anything lower than I think 100
yeah,
would be horrible for your body
yeah,
because you're not putting kind of like a equal frequency or a higher frequency into it. You
right.
know what I mean? So just like if you mix, for example, I think it's cotton and linen or cotton and wool or something.
It's linen and wool.
Yeah. So it
Yeah,
cancels out the frequency,
yeah,
right?
because the fibers of the linen goes like left to right, and the wool goes right to left. So then they apparently it just like crosses them out.
Yeah. So it's literally the same thing with like polyester. I don't know if I think I saw it one day.
I
Polyester
believe I
has
believe it's 15 or 20.
I was gonna say 30. I thought it was 30.
Okay.
But it could be 15.
Either way,
I'm not sure.
it's like what death is zero, right?
Yeah,
S-
obviously.
So so it's just right above death.
Yeah. So it's like, why are you putting, like something synthetic on your body? It's like basically wearing a garbage bag. Like, those black garbage bags.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
people are technically wearing that and they don't even realize it. They're like, oh, this is an $100 sweater and I look so good on it. I look, super presentable and perfect and beautiful and or handsome and hot, whatever. Okay, but what is your sweater made out of? You know what I mean? maybe you have like some skin reaction to it. A lot of people have eczema. A
Hmm.
lot of people I've seen that suffer from eczema.
Yeah.
And I'm like, interesting. What if it could be caused by, like these synthetic fabrics? Because usually, eczema is in like your arms, like elbows, like armpits.
The
So it's
most
like a
like
super,
sweated like
yeah,
places, and that's like also that we're that's touching the most of our
yeah.
body, like when we're
Yeah,
wearing clothes. Yeah.
exactly. And like the back of your knees. So I was wondering the other day. I was like, wait, okay. Like one of my friends has eczema, and I was like, like what if it is the clothing that, they're wearing and it's affecting their skin health in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the same thing with like acne. Like the products that a lot of people are using now, they have so many like chemicals in them, and their acne doesn't even go away.
Hmm.
Like it goes away for a certain period of time, and then boom, it comes back.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people hopping on what's that medication called? Accutane, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So many people have said about like how when they're on Accutane, they have to hop on it again a second
Yeah. They have
time.
to like rely on it. They're codependent upon it.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, like honestly, everything at this point is just toxic and the government wants to kill us. That's my
Yeah.
yep, that's my
Yeah.
conclusion about everything.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's pretty accurate.
No, really. It's like the same thing when
Yeah.
you brought up like what we put in our bodies with
Yeah.
food, you know? Um a lot of people have no clue. Like they know their food is processed, but they have no clue about like like the negatives that it can bring to their health. Like how many like downsides and like how many like sicknesses and diseases they can get from the food they're eating, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say, like I used to like I've always eaten so like, like esoteric, I guess, or holistic. Because I used to be, I've always been obsessed with health
Hmm.
and just like fitness in general and like supplements. Um, but I grew up watching my mom, like
Hmm.
always working out, always eating healthy, but
Mm.
her type of healthy was old school.
Mm.
So, it was more like eat salads, eat nuts, eat chicken. That's it. If you eat
Chicken.
steak, yeah, if you eat steak, if you eat eggs, if you eat butter or cheese, you'll get fat.
Yeah.
So everyone has this like wrong idea of like an animal based diet, which is basically what humans should be technically eating, because that's what, thousands of years ago we, hunters, they
Yeah.
used to bring meat and animals to, their families, and
Yeah.
that's how they survived.
And they were only really eating plants if they were sick, if it was like, because it's has a medicinal purpose of like,
Yeah, herbs. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
detoxifying from some sort of illness or disease.
Yeah, and also the whole herbs thing too. Growing up in Peru, it's a big thing there to kind of make our own medicine.
Mm.
So we don't really it's honestly crazy how different it is. We don't really rely on a lot of medicine.
Yeah.
We kind of like to make our own thing. Like one of my friends the other day, she texted me and she's like, "I'm so sick. I don't know what to do. Please like hit me with one of your weird recipes." I was like, "Oh, my time to shine." I was like, "Grab a red onion," like super random, and like people would say like, "This is fucking disgusting,"
Yeah.
but a red onion, cut it up, put some like organic cane sugar on top of it, and let it sit overnight. Drink the juice, you'll be totally fine the next day.
Mm.
So it's like we're so used to like all these like like natural uh herbs and like medicine and all of that. So it's completely different. Same thing with nutrition, and just like the products are very very different. In Peru, you could eat fast food, but it doesn't affect you the same way it affects you here.
Yeah.
So something that I've noticed about America is that a lot of people are addicted to fast food. A
Yes.
lot of people. A
Yeah.
lot of people, and okay, like I don't blame them. Some people don't have time to cook. I totally understand that. So what do? They DoorDash, or they just
Right.
go to like a local like McDonald's or something,
Hmm.
and they, get food from there. But the problem is that it's so processed here and it has
Hmm.
so many chemicals
Hmm.
that it's become like a drug. Like I
Hmm.
like to see fast food and processed food as like a drug because people genuinely like go crazy without it. Go
Yeah.
crazy without it. And I'm saying that because I've been there. I've been there
Mm.
multiple times, like
Hmm.
multiple times.
Hmm.
Like with the whole like growing up seeing my mom like super healthy and like like always working out, whatever. That's how I kind of like got introduced into the whole health mindset and like the like nutrition and supplements and everything.
Hmm.
So I went through different phases, I'm not gonna lie. Like I was a vegan on and off during
Hmm.
COVID.
Well,
It
it's like,
was,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it's the cool thing to
I,
do.
it was horrible. It was really bad.
I was too.
Yeah. I think everyone on Twitter has gone through the experience, which is a little bit traumatizing, but it's fine.
I got out of it pretty quickly, fortunately. But yeah, I
No,
was
yeah, for sure.
vegan for
Yeah.
like a good like 2 months, and it supported me in ways. But then and then I went to like 90% plants and 10%, meat,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then and then I moved to Mexico, and it like dramatically shifted. I went from 90% plants to 90% animal, and like I had just so much more vitality and vigor and like just raw power and clarity.
Yeah.
But yeah, continue sharing your experience with
It's
that.
honestly insane how we all just like realize this after going through that traumatizing, sad experience. Um, I
So
also wasn't
traumatizing as a vegan.
I just the issue was that I was going through diet to diet that I was fucking with my gut.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean?
you're
So
trying everything.
putting yeah, I literally like tried keto one time. Another time I was like just eating like salads and literally like I was like munching on nuts.
Mm,
Like any nut I could find, I was like just munching on it as snacks.
mm,
So doing all of those things kind of like tear my gut really bad.
mm.
And I went through like horrible health issues with my gut, something that I never went through when I was in Peru. Because in Peru, again, like I said before, it's so much different. Food
Yeah,
isn't as processed.
right.
Also, I grew up drinking raw milk,
Mm,
and like I lived near farms. So it's like
mhm.
everything I was getting wasn't processed. So
Local, fresh,
yeah,
real food.
yeah. Because a lot of it doesn't get imported over
Yeah,
there. You know what I mean? A
yeah,
lot of the food here in America, even our vegetables,
yeah.
gets imported
From
from other
Mexico,
places.
or it
Yeah,
travels. It travels halfway across the country. You're on the East Coast, right?
yeah,
So much of the food comes from California or
yeah,
Indiana, and it's like not in your local environment, your local flora.
yeah. So it's just crazy to think about, to be honest, like the difference between like, like living somewhere that, we grow our own food and then like switching to a place where everything is imported, everything has chemicals, everything is processed, and raw
Oof.
milk is illegal.
Yeah,
That's
it's illegal.
awesome.
It's gonna kill you.
Like, yeah. So it's like, okay, like once I went through my gut issues, I had to give you an idea of what I went through, sorry. I went through ulcerative colitis.
Wow.
I had ulcers in my intestine,
Mm,
H. pylori, and extreme IBS. That's what they like to call it with me.
hmm. Wow.
Um, yeah, I went through that for about, I'd say, like 6 months, like just suffering. Like I remember,
When were you suffering?
what do you mean?
Like like during COVID? uh,
No, this was
early
I'd
on?
say this was 2 years ago.
Oh,
So
okay. So yeah, I mean,
2021,
towards the end of, okay,
Yeah.
2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember even one time, I don't know why I always remember this experience. That's how bad it was. I ate pineapple. At the time I was just eating soups, like simple soups, like chicken broth. That's it. That's
Mm,
all I could eat because everything was making me sick.
mm.
And I remember I wanted to try pineapple. I had 3 pieces. And I literally almost like I was fetus position
Oh,
in the bathroom, just like dying and screaming to my
oh,
mom. I was like, I like mom, like I can't do this. Like I feel like there is like something in my stomach, just like ripping my gut
oh.
apart. So it was like that. I'm not even kidding. Every single day. So my experience with going to the doctor, I have. I don't want to shit on doctors because I feel like it's not.
I do.
Yeah, like I mean,
Good intentions, but they don't
yeah,
study any nutrition.
yeah,
They're studying how to prescribe uh,
yes.
a pharmaceutical drug that someone told them was going to be beneficial.
Yeah, so that's the problem is that a lot of doctors obviously in school they simply just teach them textbook science. Okay, take this drug for this and then, it's basically going to hide the symptoms of this and then the person is totally fine. So that's obviously like you said that's literally all doctors know how to do unless
A
you're
majority
in
of them,
a
yeah,
yeah, unless you're literally about to die, then okay, they can save your life.
yeah, right.
But with my experience, they didn't do shit. They made like the entire experience like 10 times worse for me.
Mm,
They prescribed me while I had ulcer, like listen to how stupid this is. While I had ulcers in my intestine, they prescribed me the strongest antibiotics ever
mm,
because I also had like H. pylori, which is a bacteria, but mine was kind of progressed. So they were really like worried because H. pylori can be super, super dangerous and can cause you to like literally end up dying at some point. So that was like the first thing that they wanted to like take care of.
they wanted to take care of the H. pylori first
Yeah.
and get
So
rid of all the bacteria in the gut.
right, yeah. So they prescribed me super strong antibiotics, the worst time of my life. One of the antibiotics they gave me, there were, I don't remember the name of it, but it was like these huge white pills. And they would make like my just like my taste of everything just tastes like blood. Like
Whoa.
kind of like a metallic
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah.
Um and I lost so much weight during them because it costs you to kind of lose your entire appetite. Like I've never taken anything that has caused me to genuinely not be hungry at all.
Mm,
I couldn't even drink water because it just tasted disgusting. So
mm.
I was going through it. I was really going through it. Um until it got to a point where this was the last time I ever went to the doctor. It was one of like my checkups, like my monthly checkups that I had. And I come in and she's like, "Oh, you lost a lot of weight. Like you lost around like 10 pounds in a month." And I wasn't even shocked. And I just looked at her and I was like, "Okay." Like, okay, obviously. You know what I mean? And she looked at my mom. And then she's just like staring at the both of us and she's like, "You have an eating disorder."
Ah,
Straight up to my face.
oh,
"You have
geez.
an eating disorder." And I was like, okay, first off, that is so like not okay for
Wow.
you to say. You know what I mean? I've gone through multiple eating disorders, like also with like hopping on and off from like different diets. So I looked at her and I'm not even kidding. I wanted to bawl my ass out. So whatever, we get out of the appointment and I start sobbing in the car, like just sobbing. And I was like, Mom, I'm sorry if I'm going against, whatever you want, whatever decision you want me to make, but I'm never ever stepping a foot in a doctor ever again when it comes to my stomach. I'm going to fix this by myself. I don't
Hmm.
need anyone. I'm just going to do it on my own.
Hmm.
So that's when I kind of started doing research. And at the time, a lot of people were talking about the carnivore diet.
Yeah.
And I was super confused. I didn't really understand it because I was like, wait, okay, like I don't know, because like steak,
It
doctors
goes
tell you,
against everything that we've been taught. Like, eat your vegetables, limit your red meat intake. It's like
yeah,
that
yeah.
I
So
questioned it too. Like, I was like, no way you can just
yeah,
like eat just meat and be good. And then yeah, I did some more digging and was like, oh shit. And I
yeah,
tried it for myself. I was like, oh shit.
it's so shocking. So that's when I realized I was like, okay, like I don't know if this is true, but then I started, like you said, like I started digging way deeper into it, into like the whole thing, fell into a whole rabbit hole. And I kind of started implementing foods little by little,
Hmm.
like eggs, more like just regular foods, to be honest, like healthy, but just like normal that everyone eats.
That you weren't
Start
eating as much
Yeah, no, I
this
wasn't
time?
eating at all. Like when I tell you I was eating just like soups, like I
Yeah.
mean just soups. Like that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um
And
so
were you eating just soups because of your gut issues or
yeah,
okay, gotcha.
yeah. I cuz it just got to a point where my stomach would
Because you couldn't eat
hurt.
anything. You thought you
Yeah, no.
couldn't eat anything else.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the thing though. Like at that point, obviously, like that's what I thought. Like, no, I can't eat anything else, like my stomach, whatever.
Right.
But I was genuinely in so much pain. Like it even got to a point where I couldn't even feel my stomach aches because I was so used to them.
Man.
So that was kind of sad.
Right.
So then throughout time, I started like eating normal. Things started to like settle with my stomach, but I tried to be like stay dialed into just like eating healthy. You know what I mean? Just like good foods that are like good for your body, whatever. One of my biggest things, I would always eat what's it called? I would eat rice, like literally just white rice, avocado, and then salmon. But I
Mm.
was eating salmon every single day. So it's like shit, like the omega-3, the omega-6 intake is going insane right now.
Hmm.
So then um I met someone throughout time and he taught me so much about, like animal base and everything. Then I got introduced into Twitter and that's when everything hit and I started doing like my own research and kind of going like to the past and see like how like humans were in the past and like how strong they were because of the way they ate. And I tried it out. I was like, all right, fuck it, let's just eat steak every single day, let's see what happens, like just for fun. And my skin, I had acne, my skin cleared up completely, literally. The steak, I was digesting it super fast, I think because of the like the period of time that I was kind of like introducing foods slowly, so my gut was like better. So the steak I just like digested super fast. Even until now it's like I have no problem digesting steak at all.
Oh yeah.
um and then raw milk was my biggest thing. Because when I was little I would drink raw milk, right, like
Yeah.
I said before. So I remember this person was like, oh, like, okay, yeah, like, I found out like raw milk is illegal here. And I was like, no shit, like there's no way, like it's literally legal in Peru, you can go anywhere and just find it anywhere, that's
Hmm.
crazy. And he introduced me to raw milk here, to like a farm nearby.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, I got so excited. Like, like trying raw milk after like years of not like, drinking it. So I
So
was like,
yummy.
yeah, so yum. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm not shitting myself drinking raw milk. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy because I was lactose intolerant too.
Right.
So I was like, okay, like it's not causing any problems with my stomach. And then I got, I started doing like my whole research with like raw milk.
Hmm.
And like a lot of people just like, like they think they're lactose intolerant, but it's
Yeah.
just the fact that they're drinking processed milk and, you know,
Dead
um
pasteurized milk
yeah.
where you don't have the enzymes in it to
Mhm.
digest. You don't have
Yeah.
lactase. So
Yeah.
yeah, the body's
Yeah.
like, what the fuck do we do with this?
Yeah, so your body when you're a baby, it has already like the lactase enzyme in it. That's why you're able to digest, like your mom's milk, like breast
Hmm.
milk.
Mm.
Because you need it anyway. As a baby, obviously you're gonna have it. And then the more, like you start growing up and most people start missing that enzyme. Like that enzyme just stop, like your body just stops creating it. And so it's super interesting because my dad is not lactose intolerant even until now. He can drink any milk and he's totally fine.
Mm.
So I think it honestly just like depends on the person, but I'd say like 90% of people are lactose intolerant. So,
I
yeah, I
think
mean that's
I think that has to do with, I would imagine, is your dad from Peru as well?
yeah, but he spent more time there.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So like he spent much of his life drinking probably raw milk.
mhm.
So it was like already in his body to just like produce.
Yeah.
I think there's probably like my theory is, I'm no doctor. Just my intuition is telling me, and from what I've seen and with my own experiment within myself, is like I went through a period where I used to drink so much milk and I used to digest it very well. And then, yeah, once I turned like 15, like I couldn't do milk. Like I was like, I don't want to drink milk. Like I'm not
Mhm.
digesting this. And I see that with a lot of people. And I think that's because, uh, yeah, to your point, we the lactase enzyme starts to diminish and we're consuming milk that doesn't have lactase in it, and so then the body just like doesn't know what to do. But if because now I drink raw milk. I went like a whole year drinking raw milk, and now I don't have problems drinking like
Yeah.
a very like an organic pasteurized milk. Like I can drink it.
Mhm.
I prefer the raw milk, but I don't have the troubles that I once did. And it's because my body's like, oh, okay, this is what we do. Like we can continue to produce lactase. So
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense for your dad.
No, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Because he was telling me the other day, he was like, "Oh, interesting. Everyone has like lactose problems, and I don't." And I was like, "All right, well, you spent literally like most of your life drinking raw milk, so it could be because of that." So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, um, I don't know. Just I think also just uh connecting with so many people on Twitter just changed everything for me.
Yeah, I just, I want to also mention like Twitter is fucking awesome.
I
Like
love it. And people don't get it. People
people don't
don't get
get
it.
it. Like
I praise Twitter.
Twitter
I'm
is
not
the
even kidding.
shit. Like, I'm not going to get into this topic, but like what it's doing right now for the whole, I don't know if you're aware of like the whole Epstein list. But Jeffrey Epstein was this basically this pedophile who
Uh-huh.
brought a ton of politicians to his island. This is like highly classified information, and the whole list just dropped yesterday, like from the court documents, like the court transcripts. And so if Twitter wasn't owned by Elon Musk at this point, it probably would have been filtered and yeah, they wouldn't be showing this information. But like now we have access to truth, like because things aren't being
Right.
censored on there. And YouTube is even censoring a lot of stuff. Instagram censors so much shit. And that's what's so cool about Twitter is like, yeah, it's aside from the fact that you can get on there and like actually see uncensored material, that is, I believe, yeah, giving us like true access to information. It's not biased. Um, we also have on the other end of the spectrum, there's just so much knowledge. Like
Mm-hmm.
people with so much knowledge are
Yeah.
sharing information, sharing
Yeah.
practical tips and tools in a digestible way. Um, and so, yeah, and I kind of wanted to take it back to that in the sense of like, you had talked about not, when you're in high school, you went back for your senior year, you didn't know who you were. You're like, these aren't my people. I can't vibrate with
Hmm.
them. Um, and yeah, I'm curious, like, how did you start to find your tribe? Was it through Twitter, you would say, and then kind of like started to like bubble out from your own local
So
environment?
I'd say after I graduated high school, I literally dropped everyone. I'm being completely honest right now.
Yeah,
Like I dropped everyone, every single person.
reasonable, very
Yeah.
reasonable.
So I literally had two friends from high
Mm-hmm.
school. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then from my job, I had like my other friends, super like amazing girls, love them. Um, they kind of like they were more in like my level when it came to like values. So that's why like I appreciated them so much.
Cool.
Um, and then when I got started on Twitter, obviously you like the first thing like you find out about Twitter is that you can build your own audience,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Depending on what you're posting.
Yeah.
So that's when I started posting like about health little by little. Um I started posting about I started posting like quotes first, like self-development quotes.
Yeah.
And
Sounds
then
sounds
yeah,
natural. Good
yeah,
place to start.
and then there was one time where like this is how like everything started. I posted a picture of me sitting outside, soaking in some sun, having an amazing time, but wearing AirPods. The post blew up and everyone was flaming me on the comments,
What?
flaming
Wow.
me. But the best thing is that I don't care about like hate. It wasn't even like hate people because people are so funny on Twitter. Like I
Yeah.
love how everyone, jokes around with each other.
Yeah.
Cuz now I'm that type of person too with like everyone on Twitter. So they were basically doing the same thing with me. They were like, AirPods, like, EMF, like this and that, like whatever. And the way I was responding to each person was kind of like in a funny way, kind
Oh
of like
yeah.
not getting mad. So I was just like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I'm going to throw my AirPods away like right now. I'm like running to the dumpster. I'm like actually like breaking them and putting them like, under fire, whatever." So that's how kind of like it all started. Like people started to follow me and everything. I started posting about like the things I would eat on a daily.
Were
Um,
you when you were wearing AirPods and you posted that photo, were you like aware of the
no,
EMF? So
no.
you got schooled in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like, wait,
And
wait,
in,
what am I doing wrong?
yeah, and instead of rejecting it,
Yeah.
right? Instead of
Instead of
rejecting it,
getting
I
like triggered and
accepted
being
it.
like, fuck these people, you're
Yeah,
assholes, bullshit.
exactly. I just accepted it and I was like, okay, like I'm just gonna fuck around too and just like, like kind of like make jokes about it too. Um, and so I started posting about food, the things I would eat every day. But then throughout time, obviously my audience just like started building itself, like the esoteric, holistic, like whatever, like peak vitality, like people. And then I started getting into supplements, into natural supplements. Because in the past I was taking supplements, but I would kind of take like the multivitamins or like vitamin, A, vitamin B, and like all of
Right.
those things, like, simple little supplements. But I was always
Standard
intrigued.
spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So then it all started with Shilajit. I
Mm.
love Shilajit. Like, I could live on Shilajit. The first natural supplement I ever tried was Shilajit.
Yeah.
And
What brand of Shilajit do you use?
based base
Based.
supplements.
Do you got a code for that?
I do have a code.
Great. We'll
Um,
put that in the show notes.
yeah, yeah. I think it's RAF 10 or something. I
All
don't
right,
really
just let me
remember.
know.
But yeah,
We'll
I do
get
have a
that for the
code.
people. I love
Yeah.
Shilajit.
I love it. I love it. And also at the time, I was connecting with Eric. He's an awesome person. It's just the fact that if you know how these, like, the owners of these, like, businesses are, um then you kind of, as a customer, I guess, you kind of rely more onto them and you want to get more of their stuff. So that was
Absolutely.
like one of my biggest things. I loved Shilajit, not only because it was giving me like amazing results and amazing benefits, especially with my hormones and my acne too, actually, on top of that. Um, it was just the fact that, like, Eric is genuinely someone that like, he cares about giving value to people.
Hmm.
It's not like about like, oh, I'm just selling people a product and that's it. It's more
Hmm.
like, well, this is the product, like, these are its benefits, you know what I mean? And like, he not only does he, like, he doesn't try to shove the product into people's faces. that's
Yeah.
that's my point.
Yeah.
Like, even if you go see on Twitter based supplements, everything they post about it isn't about Shilajit. It's about like a whole lot of other supplements. So I think that's one of the most important things too, Also, like, authenticity, back at it again. Keeping it authentic and just like talking about things that kind of speak to your brand. In this
Hmm.
case would be other natural supplements and like bodybuilding and like all of those things. Um so after that, I started learning so much about supplements. I started going through like different rabbit holes about supplements. Eric was definitely the one that put me on to a lot of them. And then just like by myself throughout time, I just started kind of teaching myself. And, Noah Ryan is great when it comes to
Hmm.
supplements. He's literally, I like, this guy is like a fucking walking brain. Like, I'm not even kidding. He just like, he's so knowledgeable about like supplements and just like, like your body in general and health. It's so sick. Like,
Yeah.
I can't wait to get to that point. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, so that's kind of, like, my audience just built itself with like,
Mm.
people with like natural supplements and like brands and all of those things.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. I fucking love it. I can connect
Yeah.
with everyone.
That's amazing. And it's like when you're doing something like true, pure, authentic, and people are like, yeah, they're joining your community. Um, it does give us like this sense of, hey, I got to show up. It's like it holds us accountable in a way. And it gives us permission to be ourselves. And of course, there's the other end of the spectrum with influencers, influencers who are just like models or whatever. And there's, I would imagine there's some people who are very authentic in that space, but there's also a lot of superficiality with it, and their audience is superficial. And so, and maybe that's their dharma, and that's like truly like what lights them up. But yeah, I can relate in as I'm sharing like what I'm so passionate about, what is lighting me up, people come through, and having a viewership like that, someone's like, hey, like, I appreciate so much what you're sharing. It does like create community for us, even though it's like, through a device and it's virtual. It's, it's not in the 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 flesh.
Yeah.
um I have also met some of my favorite people on the earth, like
Hmm.
in person, through Instagram, through social media.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it does like really create a tribe around us.
No, 100%. And that's how that this is why I always say, like, I've genuinely learned more about business on Twitter from the connections than I've done in school,
Well, and that's
which is
another thing that
crazy.
like, yeah, for sure. It really is crazy. And it's also
Yeah.
not at all, because if you think about it, the people who are teaching business are just teachers. And
Yeah.
most of those teachers have never actually started their own business. They're just
Yeah.
going based upon the books. It's like I was listening to Ty Lopez 10 years
Hmm.
ago, and he was like, get an internship. You don't have to be in school to get an internship. Go intern for, a business owner, somebody that you want to learn from. Don't go to school to learn from a business professor because
Yeah,
I,
you're
I can
right.
guarantee you they've never had their own business. And if they have,
Yeah.
they're teaching for a reason because they couldn't cut it.
So this is also like another thing that has always been my issue. The
Yeah.
fact that when you're someone that is studying for business, you once you find out like, oh, my professor has never had a business, like where is the experience?
Why am I learning from
Another
this person?
thing, yeah, but another thing is the fact that they don't teach you how to be your own CEO. They
No.
only teach you how to work for someone else.
Yeah.
You know, everything that they're teaching you is based about
Big business, how to get
big
into it.
business
How,
corporations.
yeah.
You're gonna need this. You're gonna need this experience for to get into this. If you want to work at like JP Morgan, you have to have this. So that's why a lot of people technically end up doing the 9 to 5, but also a lot of people do enjoy it.
Yeah.
Me personally, I can't. I can't. Like my sister, she studied the same thing as I did. Um, but she loves the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
She genuinely enjoys it. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
And there has been times where she's tried to kind of like push the idea, which is fine. She's my sister, she has her own opinions. Um, but I've had to tell her like multiple times, like, listen, I appreciate you like trying to help me out and like, like kind of like putting the word out there to like, the company you're working for. Because she works for Wall Street right now. So it's like amazing, like Wall Street, holy shit, you know what I mean? But
Right.
it's like, I don't care. I don't care. I want to be my own CEO. I don't see myself working for someone. I don't see myself, like sitting in an office. I see myself traveling. I see myself, bringing my computer everywhere, just working through my computer, connecting with people and learning so much about like different cultures because that's what I grew up like hearing from my mom.
Mm, mm,
Like you have to travel, you have to meet people, you need to expand your knowledge with things. So it's like that stuck to me. You know what I mean? Like I want that, but how do I
mhm.
get that? How do I get to that point of like being able to be free, but at the same time be financially stable? You
Yeah.
know, simply becoming your own CEO.
Become your own CEO. And fortunately, nowadays we have the internet and we have
Yeah.
things like Twitter. We have platforms that we can showcase ourselves on, our gifts, our products, whatever it may be. And there's this balance of building community, at least for me, building community and yeah, sharing my gifts, sharing my knowledge, sharing my
Yeah.
information, sharing my passions. Um, and then having like faith, trusting that God is working through us to because we stay true to our path. We stay authentic to who we are. And it's like it's inevitable. I really believe it's inevitable. And what you're doing, um, just with your such wisdom that you have, like it's inevitable that you're going to be living that life, that you're going to be doing
Yeah.
that. And I just my encouragement to you is to keep doing what you're doing. And uh, you know, it doesn't matter, like the how happens because of our why, because of
Hmm.
us just stepping into the why and taking a little bit of action every day. Like
Yeah.
whatever it is, take a little bit of action. Um, but I do we're getting towards the end and I want
Hmm.
to respect your time uh and do yeah, feeling the call to close it out here in a moment. But I just want to also kind of go back um and have you yeah, like I'm kind of reflecting upon what you shared in a little bit of your journey because I think it's like the hero's journey in a way that we have to go through and
Yeah.
like you grew up on the beach, eating real food, local foods every day, like having conversation with loved ones and friends and just like being this ball of energy that
Hmm.
people was just really inspired by and magnetized towards. And you're living a healthy and rich like a just a rich life, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And then you come to the US and there's these challenges that you're going through and like identity, like finding your identity and but then also like living about 10 years, 8, 10 years of your life the standard American way, it sounds like. And I could be um construing that a little bit, but it sounds like, yeah,
Yeah.
typical standard American foods, fast
Yep.
food, going to school in the standard American way. And you started noticing a lot of these challenges coming up, gut issues, skin issues, again, identity issues, purpose
Mhm.
issues or challenges, traumas, we can call them. Um, and it sounds like, through the ability of talking with an individual, a therapist, could be like really anybody who's gonna like genuinely ask us questions can help us
Mhm.
find these things out. You realize that you weren't living the life that was really, really inspiring you, maybe as a child.
Yeah.
You weren't, yeah, you weren't running on the beach. You weren't playing in the grass like you used to. You weren't eating the real foods. And by remembering that and coming back to like, hey, let's experiment with this real food stuff, you started to heal. Your body started to come back to homeostasis, come back to
Yeah.
balance. And I know you're an avid grounder. You're someone who, again, we had the conversation about clothing. I know
Mhm.
clothing is really important for you, and um, yeah, and the supplements, and yeah, I think that's just that story alone can give a lot of people hope, can give a lot of
Yeah.
people guidance of like, come back to the basics, come
Mhm.
back to, the eating real food, getting into nature, having a friend to conversate with, to talk
Yeah.
like about these like real challenges
Yeah.
that are there. Um, And so, yeah, is there anything you want to add upon that, like that you may not that were like a key thing that you may not have shared about your journey?
I'd say the only thing I will say, I think it's important for everyone to let yourself be human.
Mm,
Let yourself go through the challenges,
yeah.
accept them, you know what I mean? And move on. Keep moving forward. Remember your why. That has always been a huge thing for me without even knowing what was like, like people were talking about like, oh, remember your why, whatever. It just like came up to me one time in a super important conversation with someone. Um, and it has stuck to me since then. So I think one of the best things everyone can do, the people who are listening to this, always remember you're a human. You're going to
Mhm,
make mistakes. You're going to go through, traumas, like you said, but you can always take the steps to heal either your health or either, your soul. And
mm,
genuinely like take care of that inner child that you have in you and take care of yourself and always take action towards everything, your health, your well-being, your business that you want to build and like your future in general. You know what I mean? So yeah, always remember your why and just be human.
be human. I love that. I love that. And like for me, that's why I started this podcast, is like to inspire people, to help people remember that we are human.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah.
Again, the Primal Experience podcast is living a life of to the root,
Yeah.
the return of being human. Because um, one of my mentors, virtual mentors, through the different social mediums who I connected with many years ago, his name's Daniel Vitalis. Um, he has a company called Rewild. Um, or
That's a
yeah, I think
sick name.
yeah. And he's anyways, what he would say is, um, you know, people today are what he would consider Homo sapien domesticalis fragilis. So
Mm.
domesticated, fragile human beings.
Yes.
Um, and we need to get back to becoming Homo sapien. Um,
Mhm.
and that involves us rewilding ourselves. That involves us eating real food. That involves us getting back to nature. It involves us like being wildly authentic. Like
Yeah.
just going into nature and just screaming, like not giving a or going into the park and just screaming and being like, what is that like for me to challenge my edge and get uncomfortable when there's all these
Yeah.
people around and they're, they might look at me like, oh no, who am I? It's like, no, do the things that are uncomfortable. Uh, Come back to these these wisdoms that are deep within you because we all have this. Like all of this,
Mhm.
we can find this information on the internet, but ultimately, like it's within us. It's on our soul. Our soul knows. And when we return to our soul by coming back to our humanness, it's like, oh yeah, that's where I've been.
Yeah.
That's who I
It
am.
feels it feels great, like, actually, just, like, finding yourself in general, and not letting fear stop you, but instead kind of taking it as a motivation and kind of like adding it to discipline and into taking action. And I think that's the problem. Everyone is like, oh, I'm human, but like, if I'm scared about something, I'm not gonna go for it. I don't like uncomfortable things, so I'm gonna stay comfortable. But that's the point. You're a human. You need to put yourself through uncomfortable situations for you to be able to genuinely grow, obviously, like mentally, with like old experiences that you're going to have to go through in life. So be
Amen to
human.
that. Be human. I love that. And yeah, that's a great place to end off.
Yep.
Raf, thank you so much for joining today. Um, where can people find you?
I have Instagram. It's Rafaela dot Della Fuente. Do I have to spell that? I think I have
I
to.
we'll put it in the
I
show
added
notes.
added to that, yeah. And then on Twitter, Raf De La Fuente.
Awesome.
And yeah, I mean that's basically like my two platforms right now for social media.
Very cool. Yeah, I recommend everybody give Raf a follow. Check out her content on Twitter. And yeah, you share great stories on Instagram. And so thanks for being a light in this world. And
Thank you.
it's an honor to know you and to just have this connection now. And yeah, excited to see your growth, excited to see where life takes us.
Thank you so much.